Hey, what's going on, guys? Ice here, and most of you guys probably saw my last montage called Airborne, and I got a bunch of questions on how I did my 3D text, and I'm gonna do a tutorial here because I guess the easiest way to tell you guys that is by just simply showing you. So what you're gonna need is After Effects and another program called Buju. And basically, you take any clip you want for the purpose of this, for this tutorial. I'm gonna take a pretty simple cinematic and that I shot for that montage, but didn't use it. Where is that? Cinematics, probably, maybe it's even the first one actually. You know what, I'll just take this one, import that into After Effects by simply dragging it in and put it on the timeline, and yeah. So I'm just gonna cut that a little shorter so it doesn't take that long to render out, and yep, maybe about 3 seconds. Should go pretty fast. And then composition, add to render queue, and I'm gonna set that to JPEG sequence, the the file I want to export this as, and tutorial cinematic. Okay, so what that's basically gonna do is it's gonna create somewhat around 3 minutes with where do we have it? Composition settings. So that's gonna create like 3 seconds, not 3 minutes, times 60, so about 180 frames that should create. There we go, render. And while that is rendering, I'm gonna go ahead and open Buju. And actually, I think I'm gonna fast forward that part. Okay, so now that we're done rendering that out, let's go ahead and import that into Buju, and let's just find that folder, tutorial cinematic, and select the first file, the first frame, and adjust the frame rate to 60. For some reason I always have to check that twice, and okay. So we basically have this cinematic. Okay. So what you're gonna have to do now, before you motion track the whole thing, is you have to mask out anything which is moving in the picture, or in the video better. And normally that would be like when you have actual gameplay. That would be anything like a player running on your screen, or also stuff like your HUD, because technically your HUD would be floating like in front of your camera, but it would be constantly moving with the player. So you want to mask out anything which does either move with the player or just moves in general. So in that case, that would be this jet here. I basically just took this cinematic because, well, I don't have that much to mask out. And you can just simply drag that around by clicking on the middle point, and you can also rotate it by holding this arrow, or resize it or rescale it better whilst holding that one. So as you see here, that creates some keyframes, and you just want to make sure that it stays under the mask the entire time. Okay. Up. There we go. And once it's not on the screen anymore, you can just simply move the mask out of the screen. Okay, so basically, I think that covers the plane the entire time. If you were to do it in a super fancy way, you could obviously do more points, but that's not really necessary since it only covers up a very small part of the screen. So I'm gonna go ahead and motion track the whole thing. You have a bunch of options here. Basically, you can change the sensitivity to a higher sensitivity, which then will track a little more points. Will also take a little longer. I would only do that if you are tracking something which is moving quite a lot, but like when you're tracking actual gameplay where you're obviously moving your mouse a lot more than I was doing for the cinematic, which is a pretty smooth movement. So I'm practically just gonna go with the basic the basic setup they give you. Okay, so you see practically it tracks these points on the clouds, for example, and moves them over. And that will then, well, anyway, while that is tracking, for those who are wondering what I'm actually recording with, because I also got that question a bunch. So you see down here, you see a couple of programs. We have Fraps here, DxTory, and a program called Action. And basically I used to record with Fraps, but Fraps is pretty unreliable when it comes to having a frame rate which is stable. And so I was looking for something which didn't drop so much FPS, and I came across DxTory, which drops almost no frames at all. But you know, I had this little issue with DxTory that DxTory creates huge files. Now some people might say Fraps already creates huge files, which is like 4 gigabytes per minute, but if you're recording in 1080p and 60 FPS, obviously. But DxTory even creates like double the file size, and my hard drive simply doesn't have a high enough writing speed. So I had to look for something else, and I came across this program here, Action, and that seems to pretty much also drop no frames. Well, anyway, once you've motion tracked the whole thing, and it seems good so far, every now and then you'll find a couple lines which don't really fit in, which have a complete different direction. But as long as most of them point in the same like direction, which seems logical, yeah, that's gonna be all right. Okay, so then click on Camera Solve and click Start. There's a couple other options, but I don't really think they are really useful, at least not for what I'm doing. So that Camera Solve is going pretty fast. Sometimes they take a lot longer, like when you, for example, if I would have not taken like a medium sensitivity for the motion tracking, and if I would have taken a very high one, I would have gotten a lot more points, and that would have taken a lot longer. Probably would have given me a little better result, but nothing significant. Okay, so what you want to do next is do some scene geometry. So right now it probably looks something a little strange in the 3D space. By the way, here 3D, and if you want to rotate the camera, simply hold shift and rotate. So I want to get a y-axis. In my opinion, a y-axis is the most important one of them. You can also make yourself a C or x-axis, but since the y-axis is the vertical one, it seems to me like the most important one. So select 2 points which are somewhat on top of each other. In that case, I found that points on the tower would work pretty well for that, and you know, I have this one and that one down there, and you know, simply select 2 by holding Control. Okay, go into scene geometry, add coordinate from hint, select y-axis and connect to selected, update coordinate frame. So one more thing we need. Well, we don't necessarily need it, but when you later on want to place a 3D object in After Effects, and let's say you wanted a text which is on the somewhere on the tower, okay? And it would be kind of hard to hit the position by moving it around, so I'm gonna set the origin to, let's say, this point here that I just selected. So add coordinate from hint, select origin, and connect to selected. So basically, when I later on have a text on my, in After Effects, and I will give that the position 0, 0, 0, it should appear right there. Okay, anyway, go to camera solve, perfect. Only one camera solve. Sometimes if you don't have such a smooth camera movement, you might get more than one camera solve, and then you could select which one you want here, but we only have one, so that's perfect. So, tutorial, make sure it's a After Effects Maya file, and I'm gonna scale it by 1000 because, well, basically it seems to work really well if you scale the scene. And export flag tracks only, because what that does is normally Buju would export every single point that you calculated there. So you would probably get a couple thousand, like 10,000 points. What you see here, I have a point 8,885, and so that's obviously at least like 10,000 points. And if you would not click that here, then it would also export every single point, and that would slow After Effects down by a lot. Okay, save that. Apparently I already made one file, but I'm just gonna overwrite that and go back into After Effects, find myself that file that I just created, Buju and tutorial, drag that into After Effects. You get a new composition with a camera. Extract the camera and put it into this composition. It should, if you did what I did with that in Buju in the very beginning, where you this part with the frame rate selecting, then it should fit perfectly with what you actually rendered out. And so now you have a a nice camera, which, let's just try that out real quick. Tutorial, and make that a 3D text by clicking this little box here. And if I where we have it, transform and position, which by the way you can also just hit I believe hit P. Yep, hit P, you would get directly to position. So you see it is perfectly on that one spot that I assigned as origin. And what you can do now is rotate the whole thing like that, and you would have this nice tutorial text. Now, I'm pretty sure that when people asked me how I do my 3D text, you didn't actually ask for a flat 3D text like that is. And the way I did my, let's call it three-dimensional 3D text, is with a plugin for After Effects called, no, I didn't want a new text, with a plugin called Element 3D. And so to do that, you will need a new solid. I'm just going to call that element. Okay, and apply Element 3D, this one, onto the solid. Gonna take a second, and now you can, in here you can select a custom layer, pretty much any of those layers. In my case it would be the tutorial layer, so the text. You can select that, and then you can extrude the whole text, which will then give you a three-dimensional version of your text. And you can apply stuff like different textures, so we have a chrome texture here. or you know, there's a bunch of them. You can just try it out. I'm just gonna go for the chrome one because I like that one. And also you would have some different, that's not just extruded. There's a couple different ones where you can actually, never mind, where you actually have different, well, let's say just a little more complex 3D model. Okay, and okay, so we have our 3D text right here. On this one you don't apply the position like that, like you don't apply it on the solid, but what you actually do is go into group 1 particle replicator and set that to 0, 0, and rotate that up. So we have our 3D text now, which doesn't exactly fit with the tower how I had it with the other text. By the way, you can hide the other text by simply, you know, clicking that eye off. And the reason why that is not the way the other one was is because the anchor point of that element 3D is sort of in the middle. So what I'm just gonna manually adjust this so it somewhat on the tower. Now obviously if I take a little more time it would be I guess a little better. And actually let's make that a little bigger so it looks a little cooler. You know what, something like 20, and move that. And it's probably going to be floating in the air, not exactly on the tower. But I'm just going to go with it. Well, actually it's somewhere around the tower. Okay, so that looks pretty good to me. If you, let's just have a close up. Actually, if you do want, if you don't like these, let's say these little edges type of things, there is a option down here in render settings, I believe. No, never mind, it's an output. So you go into output and you can have a higher multi-sampling, something like 32, and a higher super sampling, and that will give you smoother edges. But also, of course, it will take a little longer to render, and so pretty much that's how I did my 3D text. And just gonna render that out real quick, and then you will see how it actually looks. Oh, actually, I forgot one thing. If you want to have some nice reflections on your text, what you can do is create an environment map to, you know, from where it actually does the reflections. So what I'm gonna do is duplicate that by Control D and create a freeze frame, time freeze frame, where is it, freeze frame. So it's basically that picture right there. Wait, I'm just gonna solo it. So we have this picture, and I'm gonna take that as pretty much to that picture, by the way, stays the same no matter where you are. Okay. And in that case it didn't, because I didn't have it singled up and it was underneath that one. Anyway, I don't really need that one to show up because I only need it as a environment map. So what I'm gonna do is go to, where is it? Close that, custom layers, custom texture maps. Go in here. Oh, never mind. And now what you're gonna do is go to, let's see, where was that? Can't remember right now. Go into render settings, environment, and override layer. Select that layer. I could have renamed it, but obviously it's layer number 5, the one with the freeze frame. And what you see is sort of the class never mind. You see those reflections from the grass and reflections from the sky here. So that's basically how I did my 3D. If you have any more questions, go ahead and leave them in the comments below. And if I know the answer to your questions, I'm gonna answer them. And yeah, that was pretty much my tutorial. Just gonna run that out, and then you will see the final version of that.
Oh god. I like this, yeah.